In this hopefully not too long of a video, I'm going to explain to you the equipment I use and how I set up to record boxing, MMA, kickboxing, generally by myself. Just lately I have introduced a second person, so my daughter comes with me, she takes photos, and then she gets one little shot for me right at the beginning when the guys are getting the announcements. Love that shot, and we use the R6 for that with the 28-70 lens. Expensive lens, it's a beautiful shot, and then she moves over to photography and just shoots photos through the fights. When I initially started, I just kind of jumped in. I couldn't find a single video online that kind of explained how to approach this sort of work. So I'm hoping someone will find this video of benefit. So to start off with the gear, my main camera is the Canon R5. It's a mirrorless camera. I've owned this camera for a few years and I know it pretty well now. And I shoot in 1080p, close up to the ring or cage with this camera, generally using the 24-70 f2.8 lens. I am looking to upgrade that to the new 24-105 f2.8, but it's an expensive lens and I'm saving for it. Further away, I have a camera on a remote control and I'm using the Canon R5C. Probably a lot of people would say, you know, it's not the most appropriate camera to use for this type of work, but it's the camera I own. I do a lot of corporate work and a bit of documentary stuff, and so I just use what I had available. I discovered I could operate it through a remote control through this little 3-pin input here. So I use a remote control there, the receiver sits on top, and I have the transmitter around my neck. And all night long, I'm just constantly watching that camera, checking that the tally light is on and that it's recording when I want it to. On the recording side, I don't ever record when music is playing in the venue. So during the walkouts, during the intervals between rounds, I don't record. And the reason is that YouTube will hit me with, you know, copyright restrictions if I do so. So yeah, I just avoid that altogether, and it means it stops these cameras from overheating. Not that the R5C ever will, but the R5 has potential to overheat, and yeah, I'm stopping so regularly that doesn't happen. Some other things that are really crucial to me are getting good audio, so I will try and mic up the ring with or cage with as many mics as I can and get at least one over the top. I also have 2 commentary headsets, and all of that runs through my Soundcraft desk, and then I take an output of that straight into the R5. I don't have any backup of sound, which I probably should have, other than what's recorded on the R5C, and I will have my little DJI mic system that I'm using now on the desk with the commentators transmitting to the R5C, and that just makes it much easier for me to sync up the 2 cameras when it comes to editing. And this records 4 channels of audio, so I do have a backup of audio, scratch audio recording on this, which I've had to use once really, when somebody actually accidentally cut one of my mic cables during a show. Since then, I always make sure I always have earbuds in my ears and ear defenders over them. They do look a little bit ridiculous all night, but it makes sure that I get good audio, and ultimately that's what I'm there for. Tripods, I personally don't like shaky footage, so I've got an 8-foot Manfrotto tripod, which will do me for rings, any rings. And then if it's a cage, I've had a special clamp system made by the engineering department in Coleg Menai. Shout out to those guys, thank you for doing that. It's basically a Manfrotto clamp with a fluid head on top, and we've had it designed so that it's in the right position for me. I also take with me lots of microphone cables, lots of power extension cables, so I can run this one off mains. I can have chargers for the batteries for the R5, and I can keep things like my DJI system powered, so I don't have to worry about that running out of batteries. So we've got a few shows coming up, including a couple at venues we've never been before. So I'm planning to shoot a load behind the scenes so you can see how we set up, and we'll have a little debrief after we've got through the next few weeks. We are here at the Kinmill Manor, Abergele. Yeah, initially we just scout the room out. Couldn't really find, there was nowhere raised up for me to put that second camera, so we've put it on a tripod right at the back of the room. We've weighed it down with a sandbag, so everything's running off power. The camera's got mains power, the audio receiver, the DJ mic receiver's got power, and I've also got another charger back there just because I couldn't fit one next to the ring. Next to the ring, tried to do it so that we are where the standing audience is behind us, so that when they do the judgments they're facing me. I've got the mixer set up and we've tested the commentary audio, which I will test again once we get the commentator here. We've got 2 mics on the ring. I didn't use my overhead. It's a little bit tight in there for space, and I'm worried someone will trip up over it. I think that's it. We're ready to go now. Just going to take a few photos and wait for the fights. Successful show last night. Back from Abergele about soon after midnight. This morning I have been downloading all the shots and putting them on 2 hard drives, so I've got a backup before blanking all the cameras. The biggest issue I had last night was the lighting, really. Lots of these venues, they set up lights so that it looks good for the audience there, but what I'm after is very different. And last night we had a few spotlights, some coloured lights, and just bits of the ring that were a bit dark, and then bits of the ring that were like overexposed. So all you can do is sort of set a happy medium and try and cope with it. I have had shows where I've tried to actually adjust the aperture depending on what part of the ring or cage they're in, but that's, you know, there's only so much you can do. So tonight we are in Runcorn for Octagamores, which is a cage, and I'm looking forward to testing out my clamp, which I've tested it a couple of times, but not used it for a show yet. So looking forward to seeing if this works and how it can handle the movement of the cage, because these cages do move, especially when there's heavyweights in there from rolling around. We'll shoot a bit of stuff there and have a little debrief after, and let you know how it's gone. So we've arrived at Octagamores, brand new venue for us in Runcorn. Lights look really good, which I'm excited about, but there was nowhere raised up where I could put that second camera again, so once again that's causing me issues. I managed to find a couple of stage risers, so we've moved them over and we're going to put the remote camera on there. Hopefully it can get like a little bit above the cage, but we'll have to see. Set the clamp up, and that feels good, and I've had a few guys like moving around in the cage, so yeah, looking forward to this one, and yeah, confident, fingers crossed that that clamp system's going to work and that the remote camera looks all right. We're back from Octagamores, very successful show, awesome fights, and the lights was great, which is fantastic for me. Not overly happy with where I put that second camera. There was one of the pillars of the cage was kind of obscuring the vision a little bit, and the platforms that I'd used to raise the tripod up ended up with like people sat on there and drinks on there and stuff, so it wasn't ideal. I will look to change that because we're going back there in June. The cage wasn't as high as some of the other cages I've dealt with, so it's a little bit easier to manage, and the clamp system was just fantastic. It does move a little bit when the cage moves, but that doesn't seem to translate to massive movement in the footage. I presume because it's moving with the cage. But yeah, it looks great. A couple of things I forgot to mention previously was that on that second camera on the R5C, I am shooting in 4K, and that allows me to crop in up to 200% for bits of action that the other cameras missed, or for replays. And I also do this little sort of establishing shot at the beginning of the rounds with a slow zoom in. I'll probably do a little video on the post-production process, so if you're interested in that, on how I edit the fights, stay tuned. We've got a few more fights coming up, so I've got a load of things that I need to edit from the last 2, and then I've got one next weekend, which is a cage in a new location, and then one in a ring in a location we've shot a couple of times before. So it will probably take me a couple of weeks to edit these, but I'll put some little clips from those shows in as well. If you like this sort of stuff, you know, please do subscribe to the channel. We shoot a lot of fights and combat sport related material, and we're looking to be doing more in the future. So thanks for watching.